Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we will be showcasing how we can potentially build a command and control C2 mechanism using publicly available infrastructure and services such as GitHub repositories. This will be a bare-bone minimal proof of concept program. The program will basically read a file on GitHub, execute the content using CMD, and return the output of the command executed in another file. We will be demonstrating this in C# and using the OctoKit library, which provides ease of access to GitHub APIs. You can also do this using the HTTP client library as well, but it will be more tedious. Without further ado, let's get started. Shown in the screen is the OctoKit library for C#. Let's install the OctoKit library first using Visual Studio Package Manager. Let's start off Visual Studio and select Console App and create a new project. We can then install the OctoKit library using the package management console shown over here. Once this is done, we should be able to use the functions in the library. Let's give it a shot. As shown in the Getting Started guide, we should be able to initialize a GitHub client with the following code. Let's try to compile and execute it. Awesome. Now let's move on. Next, we should be supplying our credentials. Let's head over to our GitHub account and generate a token so that we can use it for authentication. Go to Settings and under Developer Settings, select Personal Access Tokens and select the Classic token. Select the necessary permissions and generate it. This token will be your authentication token and you should never share it with anyone. Please handle this with care. Do not upload the program with the token hard-coded in it to your GitHub page or somewhere public. Once that is done, we should be able to authenticate as ourselves on GitHub using the C# code. Let's declare a few variables that we need. We will need the token variable, the repository owner name, and the name of the repository itself. We will also need the input file name that we want to fetch the commands from, and also an output.txt file that will be created and will contain the results output from the command executed. As shown on my GitHub repository over here, I have created this sample repo with an empty input.txt file and also an empty output.txt file. Let's edit input.txt and enter some text in it. We will try to fetch the content of input.txt file first to see if this works. Let's do this step by step to ensure that everything works. Now, let's use the get all contents from the OctoKit library to attempt to fetch the input.txt file from our GitHub repo. We will need to modify our main method to async task instead as described in the error message. Now, let's write out the content of the input.txt file first using console.writeLine. Let's print out the content of the file from the file content list. Awesome, it worked. We have just verified that our authentication to GitHub works and we can fetch the content of a file. Now, we should be able to execute a command instead based on the content of the input.txt file we have. Let's create a loop that will periodically check the content of the input.txt file for commands to be executed. Let's do 3 seconds for this demo proof of concept. We can use thread.sleep to do that. Alright, this should work. Let's recompile it and give it a try. Awesome. Now let's move on to the next step. What we need now is to fetch the content of input.txt and pass the content to execute it using CMD. Let's change the input.txt file to contain ipconfig instead. Let's create a separate function that will take a string argument as the command that we want to execute. The function will use the start process and execute the command with CMD.exe. We will also need to capture the output from the command executed. Let's store the file content as a string first. Then, we can call the execute command function and pass in the command string as an argument. We will print out the results on the console first to ensure that it is working. Let's compile this and give it a shot. Awesome, it worked. Now what we need to do is to store the results into the output.txt file instead. We don't want the results to be printed on the console. We want the results to be captured and stored onto our GitHub C2. In the output.txt file, we will also need to remove the content of input.txt file after it has been executed, else the program will repeatedly execute the same commands over and over again. Let's try to capture and write the results to output.txt file first. Let's use the update file request function in the AutoKit library to do that. After creating this update file request, we can then use update file to update the output.txt to contain the results of the command that is executed. We will need to get the content of the output.txt file first and retrieve the content of results from it. This will contain the SHA SHA checksum of the file. We will then use the SHA checksum of the file to update the file with the content of the results. This is to make sure that we are updating the correct file based on the checksum of the file. Let's compile it and give it a shot. Now let's check our output.txt file. Awesome, it worked as shown in the screen. Our little program is able to fetch a file content on a GitHub repo, execute it as a system command, and write the results back to the output.txt file on our GitHub repository. Now, we will need to remove the command stored in the input.txt file after it has been executed. This is to prevent the program from executing it multiple times. We can use the same process of updating the output.txt file shown over here. Let's copy paste these 3 lines of code and rename them accordingly so that input.txt file will be updated to be an empty file. Alright, this should work. Let's give it a shot. After executing our program, ipconfig should be executed and the results should be written into the output.txt file. Our input.txt file should be empty after that. Oh dear, it seems that our output.txt file will be overwritten with empty results after the first execution. This is because the program is executing the empty string stored in input.txt file with CMD regardless. We will need to add in a if condition to only execute the content of input.txt if it contains something. This should do the job. We have an if condition now to ensure that commands will only be executed if input.txt file contains something. Awesome, it worked. Input.txt file is now empty after executing ipconfig and the results of ipconfig is now stored in output.txt file. Since the program is still running, we should be able to update input.txt file with a new command and it should get executed. Let's try it out. Awesome, it worked. We can now execute system commands on a victim computer with our program using GitHub as our C2 channel, issuing the commands and capturing the output. This is awesome. Alright all, this is it to the video. As demonstrated, it is quite easy to use public resources such as GitHub as a C2 channel, especially when they provide API services. You can do something similar with Dropbox, Discord, or even Telegram as well. The template code will be provided in our Gemini Cybersecurity GitHub repository. The link will be in the video's description, so feel free to check it out yourself. I have recently created a free phishing course available on Udemy. This phishing course is completely free and it is only about 30 minutes long. Several phishing techniques and popular tools such as GoPhish is demonstrated in the course. The link to the free course will be available in the video's description. I hope you have enjoyed the video and found it to be interesting. Please help to like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. It will really help out the channel a lot. Thanks all, I appreciate it. I will see you all soon in the next one. Bye.